Well, hey guys, my name is Shane. I am the one of the co-founders of the collective, and really excited to be talking with two other guys here. One of our other co-founders and Cole Hunter, we've really designed a lot of tools to help you, not just in your walk, but if you're interested in following Jesus, there are some basic principles that we believe are really important. And I'm really excited to introduce Cody Bren, our other co-founder of the collective, who's actually helped create this tool that is not just for you, but for other people just as well. And so, Cody, can you just kind of help us understand this tool that you've created and maybe who it's for? It's called the Basics Guide. And can you just kind of walk us through what that looks like?
Yeah, well, I want to talk really quickly about why we did this in the first place, right? And a lot of it stemmed from a study from Northwestern University. And this study tracked students over 10 years. And there was a really surprising finding that students who had newer professors, ones right out of graduate school, not the seasoned tenured professors, actually did better in their classes than if they had, they did better in their classes with these newer professors than they did with tenured ones. And so it begged the question, why? Why would that be the case? What they found is that new professors, they still understood what it felt like to be new. The tenured professors, though, brilliant as they were able to, explain the vast and deep complexities of things, they had lost touch with the basics. And they made what was meant to be simple much too complex. And famously, Albert Einstein actually was a terrible teacher for that reason. He couldn't think like a beginner anymore because his mind was in such advanced areas, right, that he couldn't bring himself back to what it felt like to be a beginner and just had a rudimentary understanding of physics and quantum physics and all those things, right? And I think we do that exact thing in the church all the time. We overcomplicate what it means to follow Jesus, and I think that's really in part why Martin Luther even sparked the Reformation in 1517, right? Because the church had made faith inaccessible. There were all these rules and there were these rituals and hierarchies, and it all added all these layers that distracted from the simple truths of the gospel. And there's also a reality that we have a complexity bias. Our brains have this ability to assume that if something is simple, it must not be very valuable. Right? We distrust if something's too simple, right? We've all done that before. That seems too easy. It's too good to be true. Right? And that complexity bias also affects us in such a way that if we begin something and in the process of learning it, say maybe somebody wants to learn a new instrument, right? I'm a guitar player, and so I've taught many people how to play guitar or tried to, and so often they get into it and then realize this is actually way more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And so our brains just immediately go, this isn't for me. It's too much. I'm not going to be able to understand this. And so we just kind of throw out the baby with the bathwater. But it's so dangerous what we've done in our complexity bias towards the gospel, in that we've overcomplicated it so much that people will look at it and say it's too complicated, so they throw the baby out with the bathwater. But we know, those of us who follow Jesus, we know that the gospel is meant to be both simple and life altering. We also know it's not simple and easy, right? It's not the easiest thing. It's difficult, but it's not complicated. And so one of our goals with the collective is we want everything that we do, everything we teach, to be simple and replicable. Because if we overcomplicate it, then nobody's going to pick it up and run with it. But if we can simplify it down into its most basic forms, then people can own it and they can feel confident about it. There's a recent study that said 17% of those in the church say that they are somewhat familiar with the method in which to share the gospel. That doesn't mean that 17% are actually going and doing it. It means they're even just familiar. And man, we have to change that. We have to change that. And so that's what the basics are about. It's about the things that we want to know and live by and pass on easily when it comes to following Jesus. And so where do we start? Right? Where do we start with this? Well, we start by believing. We start with belief in Jesus. And I just want to unpack quickly, what are these steps to the basics, right? Well, the first step is, like I just said, to believe. We believe that Jesus is the way, he is the truth, he is the life, and that no one comes to the Father except through him. We also have to accept. The A in the basics is to accept. Accept that he is who he says he is, and make an exchange in your life of your way for his way. And next, it's an understanding of what salvation truly means and what that looks like. And we're going to unpack all these things in a little while here. Next is we have to understand our new identity in Christ. Once we are saved, we are a new creation. And we have to own that we are who he says we are now. Just as we have to own that he is who he says he is, we have to own that we are who he says we are now, right? And then we are called. What are we called to? Right? This incredible plan to share the basics with others. And then we actually have to be sent out to go and to bless others with this knowledge and this understanding that we have. And so this is really the overview of the basics, but we want to jump in for a moment and really start to unpack this first step of what it means to believe.